All right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies end of the bet.
There was this one we didn't take a look at, and it's the East African, the weekly release, and of course, biggest focus in the region is the elections in Uganda. We might be looking at that. We saw how problematic, how the kind of upheaval we saw in Tanzania. Mm-hmm. We don't know if we should expect anything like that in Uganda, but definitely something to talk about. So they talk about the hopes, fears as Ugandans vote. Businesses put up contingency plans to beat potential internet economy shutdown in crucial vote as Museveni takes last race. Just like the internet was shut down in Tanzania, we do expect it might happen in Uganda. And if this trend continues, should we expect to see the same in Kenya next year? Yeah. Anyway, that's a big story there. Other stories, a bad week for Africans everywhere, of course linked to Donald Trump. Inside food aid theft cartels in Juba and Somalia. And those are the main stories given prominence this region. It is one of those that I should be discussing with my panelists later on this morning. But let's come and take a look at the local dailies. People
Daily, Kalonzo versus Matiang'i, the battle for the 2027 opposition ticket. This story is in page 4, decisive moment. They're just doing an analysis of, the opposition politics. Are they united?
They use that tag, united opposition.
But are they united?
It's interesting now with the entry of a new presidential candidate, Eli Dowalo. Will he be joining this movement, or will he go it alone? And what does it mean for Nyanza, surely, having a presidential candidate? They've had Raila Odinga as a presidential candidate for decades now. Without Raila Odinga, no one else from that region had offered.
Oburu Odinga?
Was he? Okay, fine. Yeah.
Ashasema.
But he alisema if at all ODM will have a presidential candidate, it will be me.
ODM will have a presidential candidate. They're on record.
Yeah. So it's interesting. They call it a decisive moment.
On the top strip with Joho next, it's a question they're asking. They say cost power brokers hint at ODM's post-Raila future. That's another story on page 5. Joho alisema anatosha ku lead ODM.
Yeah. Sasa wewe mwenye umesema anataka kuwa president, ashakuwa opposed.
Anyway, another story here. Uganda at a crossroads, why January 15 poll tests region stability. And that's the People Daily.
All right. The Standard, and still matters ODM, because this story is not going away. Junet's rough ride. The Standard wame maintain hapo kwa Junet. So wasema tukuachi. So they talk about retribution as a country gradually gets used to referring to the country's most vibrant politician in past tense. The after effects of Raila Odinga's demise in October last year are turning into a nightmare for some who appear to have hung on to his coattails to make a political career through ODM. National Assembly Minority Leader Junet Mohammed continues to be hit by myriad accusations, from never winning any nominations in Migori to using his closeness with BAMBA to cause problems for others as some revive old quarrels. Now this story, if you read it, inasemekana kuna wakati mmoja hapa State House Nairobi. Kuna huyu mwanasiasa alikuwa pale na mwanasiasa mwingine akakuja. Kamuuliza mmoja, kauliza mwingine, wewe nani akupatia ruhusa kuja hapa State House? How did you gain access? Hapo kashati kakatembea hivi kidogo, jamaa moja kazabu wa coffee. Iko kwa hiyo story. That story is on page 4. Wewe soma, usisema ati ni mimi nilisema nani alipiga. Mimi sijakwambia nani alipigwa coffee. Soma. Page 4, State House slap exposes Junet's troubles in ODM as cracks widen. That's a big story to be discussed by so many people. Yes. New dawn as CBE learners join senior school is a story on page 3. Remember, it's been the biggest discussion. Rigathi Gachagua akisema watu wasomee kwao, kila mtu arudi kwao. Interestingly, I've seen a lot of talk from residents of Northeastern. Saying, okay, fine, we may not like Rigathi Gachagua that much, but kuna kaukweli amesema hapo. Hiyo pesa mnapeleka South Sea na Eastleigh. Huku Northeastern hakuna shule na hakuna hospitali. That's a good debate to have.
They're even hugging trees so that their leaders can see them.
Yes.
Can see the status of Northeastern.
Exactly. I think that's the best. And you make our leaders in a corner.
Yes.
Because they were coming out and saying, oh, this person is tribal. Hata kama ni tribal, kuna kitu amesema hapo. Amesema ukweli.
A very good argument that he started.
Yes.
And bado watu wana pull that tribal card. It's not about, I think he's That's what accountability looks like.
Yes.
What Rigathi Gachagua did and said.
You can't simply tell him, oh, you're tribal.
Yes.
Okay, fine. What about what he has said? Kuna ukweli hapo, because the best thing would have been that these politicians come out and say, no, you're lying. Angalia hii shule. No. Hapo umedanganya ndio hiyo hospitali. Unasema tu, oh, you're tribal.
They said, they also disputed that not all of them live in Nairobi, and they made that press conference here in Nairobi.
They were all in Nairobi making the press in Nairobi saying we don't live in Nairobi.
They don't live in Nairobi.
I tell you.
You know, I think it can't be tribal if we take a look at Nyanza and Western regions. Very good schools.
Oh, yes. In fact, most of the good schools are in Western and Nyanza.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we have better schools like not better per se, but we have good schools in Mangu, Alliance.
Those legacy schools.
Yes. In Mount Kenya, we equally have good schools.
Tukuwe na shule nzuri kila mahali. That's all people are saying. Let's have good schools everywhere.
Yeah.
So those are the main stories there on the front page of the Standard. On the back page, matters sports. Flying start for Kenya as it tops medal table at the 2026 World Cross.
Yeah.
So yesterday, kuna Kenya kuna 9 medals, 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. Ahead of Ethiopia with 7, Uganda with 7, Australia with 1, France 1, Japan 1. And you have a picture there of Franklin Kibet celebrating after winning gold in the World Cross Country Men's Under-20 contest. Agnes Ngetich win the senior women's race at the World Cross Country in Florida, USA. Congratulations to Team Kenya for their heroics in Florida. That's a Standard.
All right. We take a look at the Daily Nation now. Why we won't be joining grade 10. And they say as thousands of students report to their new schools today, a different reality confronts many of their peers across the country. Despite excelling in the Kenya Junior School Education Assessment, they now face a painful truth. Their academic success may not lead to progression to senior school because their families cannot afford school fees. Futures deemed. Education PSB talk assures all learners will report to school, cites various bursaries. They hear na zile shule ambazo wameitwa Sinyolo Girls, Murang'a High School, Matuga Girls High School, Gaishanjiru High, Ngandu Girls High School, among other good schools here, Kaimosi, Nguvi, Alliance, Murang'a, Lela. Why they won't be joining grade 10 because of school fees?
Umesikia hizo shule ziko wapi? Rudia tu kuna zile ziko
Kaimosi, Nguvi, Murang'a, Sinyolo, Mutuga, Alliance, Murang'a, Lela, Ngandu.
Wale wanasema wameekelewa na si ukweli. Hizo shule ziko. Mbona hatusikii shule upande zingine za nchi?
Waache mchezo, waende tengeneze shule wewe.
Apparently there are national schools in those areas, like there's Garwatula High School.
It's a national school?
It is a national school, but we don't get people really getting interested in going to that school. And I think that's the issue. Everyone wants to go to these other places, including Bungoma High School.
All right, so it looks like hata capitation is this idea.
Nani hao? You see now the problem is, and this is another, and today I know I've been critical about the kind of stories that the Daily Nation has been picking, but this one is definitely timely because senior school people, learners are reporting to schools this week. Of course, it's going to be a big discussion. The promise that the government will, one way or the other, ensure that everyone shows up in school and everyone is accounted for. Is it 100% that guarantee that we will see that?
Yeah. Because
we've had a lot of promises from the president, now the CS. The thing is, these learners here have outperformed themselves. They've done very well, meaning that they've been admitted to senior schools that are not necessarily in their home areas. Because they would be told, kama huwezi afford shule, so uende 2 day school yenye iko karibu na nyumbani.
Yes.
Lakini huyo amepita, ameitwa
Alliance. Murang'a.
What will happen to them if they're not able to report and pay the fee? Because shule watai kujua, shule wanakuambia ukija, you better pay. Na usipolipa, by next week your slot inaenda.
100% transition, CBE.
Anyway, it's a big discussion there.
All right, other quick headlines. Ruto to Mount Kenya voters, I will not abandon you. This is a story on page 10. President William Ruto has assured residents of the politically restive Mount Kenya region that he will not abandon them as he seeks re-election in 2027, recalling their decisive role in his 2022 general election victory. Dr. Ruto said his relationship with Mount Kenya is built on a firm foundation anchored in a shared transformation agenda.
Interesting, you know, when he was going to Mount Kenya in 2022 for the campaigns there, he used the church. Yesterday he was back in church in Othaya. And I don't know if he's hoping that that same route will endear him to Mount Kenya again. Interesting.
Kenya keeps the overall title but rivals closing gap. We are top. We top the overall medal table in Tala. What is it called? In Florida. The US.
Yes, Florida.
Florida. 9 medals, 3 gold, 4 silver, and 2 bronze. That's another story on the back page. ODM convenes meeting amid Oburu ouster plots. There's a story on the top strip. The political infighting within the ODM has escalated, with the party set for a critical crisis meeting amid an alleged plot to oust CIS Senator Oburu Oginga as party leader. The ongoing tough wars have forced the party's top organ, that is the Central Management Committee, to retreat to the coast today for a meeting that could either calm the simmering tensions or intensify them ahead of the 2027
And that's the most interesting beat. That they're going where? To the coast.
Yes.
That party, when they were marking the 20th anniversary, where did they do it? At the
coast.
Last week when they had the what would have been the 81st birthday party for Raila Odinga, although the Odinga family had a party here in Nairobi, coast leaders had their own special party, where they declared that Ali Hassan Joho is their leader and he should take over the running of the party. Sasa kukiwa na shida, wanapeleka hiyo meeting wapi? Coast. Mutashanga.
You know, I heard Babu Owino is also contesting for the party leader of ODM.
Aende coast pia. Hiyo mkutano
ni kumoto huko.
Hii ni kama imeenda. Hii imeenda.
All right, that's the Daily Nation.
All right. Taifa Leo, habari ile ile ya ODM. So it means it is the biggest discussion. Junet, shida huko watu wanazabana makofi State House. Huku mikutano ndio hiyo front page ya Daily Nation. It is the biggest story on the Taifa Leo. Oburu aita kikao kuzima moto ODM. ODM kuandaa kikao cha kamati kuu Kilifi leo, huku vitisho vya kumtimua kinara wao vikiendelea kutolewa. Hata yeye mwenyewe, mbona unajipeleka kichinjio huko? The person who's looking to oust you ni huko coast.
Amesema hapa very confident.
Alafu unajipeleka huko ati ndo mkutano ifanyike huko.
Amesema I'm a challenge. I challenge them to come for the NDC. I am not afraid and I will call it very soon.
If you ask me, this one politically hapo because such an NDC, you should hold it very far from Mombasa or Kilifi. Hold it in Nairobi, for example. Alafu kila mtu, even wale wanakuja kutoka coast, wanakuja, this is fair ground. Yeah. Anyway, kikao cha leo kinajiri baada ya baadhi ya wanachama ODM kutaka kongamano la wajumbe NDC liandaliwe kujadili uhalali wa uongozi wa Oburu. Pia mtafaruku kuhusu ushirikiano wa ODM na UDA unatarajiwa kujadiliwa. Hii chama, I don't know. Do you see ODM holding?
No.
Till 2027? No. Hata sijamaliza swali.
No. The answer is no. Wanapigana sana. Every day something new.
Hii vita imezidi. Magwanga kuendea kiti cha Wanga. Huyu ni deputy governor wa Homa Bay. Sasa anataka hiyo kiti ya boss. Sababu boss alimtimua, akamfungia ofisi.
Alafu boss aende wapi?
Huyu ni chairman wa ODM. Uhasama unatarajiwa kuongezeka, naibu gavana akiahidi kushindana na boss wake mwaka 2027. Kahiga naye amemruka Gachagua. Jana alikuwa na rais akasema mimi sijai toka UDA, mtu asiseme nilitoka UDA. Ajabu mtetezi sugu wa Rigathi akisema anaunga mkono UDA na Rais Ruto. Masuala ya AFCON, nusu finali ya wazito AFCON, Senegal kuonana na Misri, huku Nigeria ikitifuana na wenyeji Morocco. Inakaa imeenda tu upande mmoja. Kule juu, Iran yaahidi kulipiza kisasi kwa Amerika, na changamoto za grade 10 wakifungua leo. Historia wakijiunga na sekondari pevu, ila hofu kuhusu walimu na vifaa imezagaa. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili.
All right. Business Daily. Landowners eye windfall as 48 billion shillings set aside for SGR. Now, they say the government is set to contribute 47.5 billion shillings towards the total estimated cost of extending the SGR from Naivasha to Malaba on the Ugandan border, with a big chunk of the amount expected to be spent on land acquisition. A big chunk to be spent on land acquisition. A fresh report published by the Treasury estimates that construction of the SGR line will cost 502.9 billion Kenyan shillings. 502 billion shillings.
Oh yes.
Kujenga SGR.
Bora tukuwe na SGR.
Now, President William Ruto's government expects to secure most of the financing, about 455.35 billion, from undisclosed foreign investors. That's the reason, page 2. Ministry is hit by the exit of 18,674 employees in 3 years. And the number of civil servants on permanent and pensionable terms has declined by nearly 19,000 in the first 3 years of President William Ruto's government. Is that a good thing?
Well, in maisha kuna unajua ile natural attrition. Watu wana retire, wengine wanaaga dunia. So it means probably, and recruitment terms, especially the public service, have changed. So you're permanent and pensionable. Wengi wanachukua hizi short-term contracts, even within the public service. Yeah.
All right, on the ticker, Singapore, Hungary pay top prices for Kenyan coffee. Isuzu East Africa wins 7 billion shillings police vehicles lease contract. And the Nairobi Security Exchange, second in Africa with 52% dollar returns in 2025. That's the business deal.
All right. The Star, something totally different. Yes, they make mention of the World Cross Country Championships in Florida, where Kenya emerged top of the table medal standings. But the main story is about malnutrition. Poor diets are taking 400 billion shillings toll on Kenya's economy. And this is about malnutrition, which is reducing physical strength and mental capacity. Probably inaleta shida ya, unajua kuna mental health issues sasa zinazidi kuongezeka. Tuangazie hiyo kurasa page 4 and 5. Do you believe that this 400 billion shilling is actually 10% of our GDP? No, not GDP, of our annual budget. So
Poor diet.
Just 1.5. Watu wanakula vibaya. Total economic impact of poor diet, 400. So it is a health crisis, they say. Nearly 80% of Kenyans cannot afford a balanced diet. That's according to the World Bank and Food Organization. At least 3.5 million Kenyans are obese, with women leading at 2.7 million and men at 760. Wanaume wamejaribu. Nearly 4 out of 10 deaths in Kenya are due to malnutrition. That's close to half. 40%. Malnutrition leads to non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Non-communicable diseases account for 39% of all deaths, over 50% of hospital admissions, and 55% of hospital deaths. Total cost of a balanced diet in Kenya is 549 shillings. One balanced diet. And poor diet costs developed nations, Kenya included, up to 20% of productivity. We never look at this. Kukula chakula vibaya, the kind of impact it may have.
549.
Yes.
How many can afford?
A balanced diet. Yeah.
A lot of Kenyans still live below the poverty level.
Hata wewe kwa lunch yako leo umepanga 549.
Wacha nikwambie. Utashangaa sana.
Yeah. You cannot dislodge me in Mount Kenya, Ruto tells Gachagua. It's another story there on page 9. That's the Star.
All right. Once again, State of the Nation, lakini tuangalie karikacha kwanza.
Karakacha